Alright gang, I thought we'd try something different today. There's been concerns that we are overproduced at the moment, so I figured I'd try to induce a flow state, which is when you're focused on a task with immediate feedback. You get kind of in the groove. A lot of you guys get it from video games, although that's a bit addictive. So I bummed out my 1980s Honda Helix, although this one was made a little bit later than that. This came out in the mid-80s. It was a touring scooter with a 250cc single-cylinder engine and a CVT rubber band transmission. Yeah, look at that dash. I don't know how well that shows up in the light for you guys, but that is cool as heck. This came out when the highway speed limit was still 55 federally, so the fact that it can do 75 miles an hour with all of 270 odd pounds of my blood on it means that it's fairly impressive. Nowadays, it's a bit sluggish, but it's good enough for doing a slow tour around town, especially because I found that wind noise above 35 miles an hour is pretty hard on the old lavalier that's stuffed in my helmet, which is why I sound kind of muffled. I'm very sorry for that, but this is the technology we have, and the whole point is to do it on the fly. Now, I may get quiet as we speed up, but we'll just start talking whenever we slow back down. Now, just a point of interest, I don't live where we started. I just pulled over and started the video near downtown in a way to anonymize where May and I actually live. We do not have a very large home, nor do we have the ability to secure it against anybody that gets curious, so we just try to stay anonymous as much as possible. Now, the whole point of what I'm doing right now is to just sort of have a conversation with y'all and not be able to pay attention to how I'm structuring it. I'm going to have to focus on not dying first and foremost. Now, thankfully, that 35 mile an hour limit means that I get to kind of shut up when things are heated. Now, the good news is this little 360 camera means that I can just focus on driving and not having to point out everything to you, and we can just sort of go back over it with text, which I'm sure I've already used by now. I actually picked this up for this project, but also kind of wanted it because we usually go to the light show every year for Christmas with the boys, bundle up, take the scoots, although generally it's not that cool here in the winter. What are we doing? Okay, good. Yeah, trying to do two things at once is always fun. This year's supposed to be pretty cold. I've heard that it's going to be like it was in, 2014 when we had that big freeze out all the way up to Chicago. But I'm rocking my sweater. I finally got to wear it out, and it is lovely because I don't know if you guys are riders, but you know once you get in that wind, it cools off fast, especially here where we still have high humidity even in the cold. That ocean chill really stinks. I figured we'll just do a quick tour downtown while I talk to you guys about sort of where we are with C&Rsenal. Just as a background, I started shooting after college. I went out with a friend of mine. He had a couple Mosins. I was given Sony earbuds for hearing protection, and I can assure you the first shot had a impact on my mentality. And he ended up selling me the rifle a week later, just because his girlfriend got kind of irritated at them being there the same time that we shot them. And it's a little M38 carbine that I've kept to this day. We actually just did an episode with it. Now, that gun annoyed me because it was covered in markings and it had a very interesting construction. And to me, who had never fired a gun, I thought that's just how guns were. But as I dug into it, I found out, no, the Mosin's kind of unusual. And it's interesting because it took a number of years for some Russian sources to come together into a book that was available to us here in the West. It's still not translated, but at least you can get a hold of it. Chumak is the author there. That finally explained that story to me, but that was many years into our video series, let alone the work I did before that. So the Mosin presented enough of a mystery to keep me hooked for a while. It appears that we've been missing out. I could have been doing this. Trying to remember where you are when you're driving is fun. The Mosin represented enough of a mystery to keep me kind of engaged for a number of years, just because as I kept unearthing more and more details from other... Oh no. It appears that my route is likely cut off. I was going to swing up by the Citadel, but it looks like that is not an option today. The best laid plans, huh? Let's see if we can sneak up on it otherwise, but if not, we'll have to leave it off our tour for today. I don't know if they've just done this section or not. Let's go find out. I guess that's part of what this is. It's supposed to be improv. Let me tell you, downtown roads, when you're running a front tire smaller than 12 inches, is really interesting. A lot of you guys that are sport bike riders will know, how steep your tires are really matter. Well, the diameter of these is so small, it creates the same sort of effect as a sport bike tire, but different. It's very odd. The vehicle likes to dive into corners, but not quite as aggressively because they are fairly round. It's just that they're not very tall. And the reduced diameter of the tire itself really sneaks up on you when you're not paying attention. Alright, so I got curious about the Mosin, and I started writing articles to remind myself what I was doing. Like, I started researching all these guns. I couldn't keep track of all my notes. I don't have the best memory, to be honest with you, never have. And this was always funny in person because people try to ask me very particular questions. I'm like, what did I say before? Because the whole reason I started writing was to remind myself. I had these insane notes. And I started talking to more and more people online. At the time, Reddit was not nearly as censorious. You could actually talk about firearms there without too much difficulty. So there's a lot of information to be had and shared. And I spent a lot of time on there talking about these things, sharing articles with other people that were enthusiasts, and just sort of gathering information. I picked up photography at the same time for the firearms. I had done some in high school, but it was all that art style crap. This is more product photography that we're doing now. And so I had to watch my speed, or else I'd lose you guys pretty quickly. And let me see if I can sneak up on the Citadel. That's probably still within the boundaries. I can't tell if they're closed off or not. Let's go look. So I started working on photography, I started working on articles, I started getting kind of a name for myself in that regard, and I realized at some point that where everything was moving was video. There's far more engagement on video. And the funny thing is, I had not watched Forgotten Weapons. I think a lot of people underestimate how small 30, 40,000 viewers are. At that time, it felt like a lot if you had them. But realistically, you could be sort of lost in the mix. And I wasn't actually an early adopter of YouTube at all. I was very late to YouTube, just even as a user. And so I actually didn't know about Ian until I made my first video, and people were kind of comparing me to him. And I went, I better go watch that. So C&Rsenal's primer program it emerged completely parallel in terms of consciousness from Forgotten Weapons. And it's interesting to see how we had radically different takes. Ian's approach is actually a lot more similar to what I was doing in text, where, he gets a hold of as much as he can, he talks about it whenever he sees it, and then he just sort of did it faster and faster and faster as he got more access. Okay, we can't sneak up on the Citadel, that's good. And then for me, I wanted to do sort of long format documentary, and I also kind of wanted to do a love note to, let's just go in here and do a quick turnaround. I don't want to go through the whole thing, obviously, but we can sneak on through. 1 second. I'm just going to turn around. What's the event today?
Just a football game going on. Jump inside.
Oh, okay. No, I don't want to. I'm just sort of doing a brief run around Charleston. Yeah, but thanks, man. I appreciate it. Those boys are so friendly. So, I know some of you would prefer me to do the whole Citadel, but I don't think I want to take that much time today, because then everybody's going to be in the comments discussing all the history. You Citadel guys know. You have a million memories through here. But, just so you know, it's up in this corner. Now, what was I saying? Forgotten Weapons was structured more like what we had done in text. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And the original concept was sort of like a love letter to each firearm. And I originally planned much more cinematography. And it just never worked out. We couldn't get the time, especially couldn't get the time on range. That's very difficult to do. And it just sort of petered down into being more data driven. I kind of wonder what would have happened if we had stuck to the visuals instead, but let's go circle Hampton Park, that'll be fun. But we ended up where we are. We have a lot of respect for the data, which is honestly a big part of why we did the visual change, is to reinforce that we are data driven. Actually, sorry, I'm doing that thing where I'm trying to structure what I'm saying because I don't want to wander in a million directions. The show is all built on me putting the story into order and then occasionally breaking that chronological order in order to add clarity. And I can't stop thinking that way, which again is why we're riding the scooter for the moment, because it's forcing me to sort of be more improv with my thoughts. But even with this going on and driving in traffic and everything else, I can't help but order what I'm saying to you, because I'm trying to be as concise as possible. I'm trying not to waste everybody's time. But I guess if you've signed up for this much of this, you're really here for the ramble anyway. Now, we moved into video because we thought it'd be effective. We had, I don't know how many troubles in the early days. Being small and unheard of, there was a little bit of excitement with some people about this whole internet thing. And I know that seems pretty far beyond the emergence of internet and social media, but for a lot of institutions, it was still fairly new stuff to them. And so someone coming in respectfully and wanting to talk about what they were doing seemed to help a lot. We had some luck early on with being able to work with Springfield National Historic Site for a big section of images and some filming. Our local museum in Columbia was very friendly with us and helped us in a lot of ways. And we were really able to generate a small reputation that we could then build upon. And I'm always very thankful for those guys that came in early and just wanted to share the hobby. And I've tried really hard as we've gotten bigger to make sure that I don't let any ego creep in, because ego is the death of the honest sharing of the medium. And the medium in this case is both the physical pieces themselves and the stories around them, and the challenges that came into bringing them into being. You get the idea, you watch the show. Thankfully, my humility has been maintained by the fact that we've never really seemed to make much money, so not being wealthy is a big help. C&Rsenal has had periods where the income was good, mostly because I was kind of breaking my back and May was still working full-time, but it was unsustainable, and I had to either cut back or I had to invest. So we ended up investing into bringing May in full-time, and it effectively cut the income down. You'd say a third would come out if you thought about, half of my income then became hers. But then you have to think about the fact that she had a full-time job, so it just disappeared. And yeah, it really hammered us down a good bit, especially because the income C&Rsenal wasn't as good as a normal job. So I want to say we ended up cutting things in half just to sort of try it. It's slowly built back up, but to be honest with you, if she and I just went and got normal middle-level jobs right now, we'd probably be doing better personally. There are a lot of funds that move around to keep the show going. You know, they pay for our animator, they pay for ammunition, they pay for travel, they pay for repairs and other things. There's money that moves around that's in the business that can't be used for personal satisfaction. And that makes it seem like, I guess, a larger thing that it is. And for a lot of businesses, you have the ability to liquidate the business when you build up those assets, but I don't know how the heck I could sell C&Rsenal without selling myself in the process. Nor do I know who would really pay for it and still keep the mission that it has. So there really isn't like a C&Rsenal exit strategy, which is frankly bad business, but it's not really what we're about. We're about the passion of what we're doing. Right now we're moving down King Street, by the way. I'm sure I've been popping text for some of this stuff, but you know, I guess I should be giving some sort of tour. They are building the crap out of Charleston. There was a time when none of these tall buildings over here behind my left shoulder, which I'm sure I can get on camera, there was a time when none of them were here, and that time was like 4 years ago, maybe 5. And all of a sudden they took the cap off, and it all sprouted instantaneously. There's a pent-up demand to live here apparently, and they are trying to fill it as fast as they can with apartments and high-rises and things. It's very interesting because it went from a town that was like the small big town where you ended up knowing a lot of the people you saw in your day, and now there's this sort of floating group of people that they're all new. Occasionally you talk to them in some level of detail and you find out they've been here for 3-4 years and they actually don't know a single local. They only know other people that have been here for 3-4 years or less, because they're employed in the same kind of jobs that wander in and stuff like that. It's fascinating to see the boundaries, I guess, in the culture. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, new business opened up, so therefore the locals got hired, and you're like, sort of. It depends on the business and what they're doing. But it's resulted in a lot of cultural shifts. Golf carts are a new thing, at least around here. Now, King Street is, I guess nowadays you'd call it the Market Street, although we do have a Market Street. But the traditional Market Street became a tourist attraction, and then I don't know what happened. I guess tourism's really down in general. I think it's more of an older generational thing, at least the way the old market was. And so that street that used to be busy all the time, well into the night, is practically empty most of the time, except for on specific weekends and Sunday brunch. So again, you can see sort of people's habits changing. Oh, look, a bike. Oh no, red light, we can't keep up. It looks like, did he leave his signal on, or is he gonna turn? I don't know. We'll see if the light changes. One of my favorite things is to hunt motorcycles with my big stupid Helix, because they can't figure out why the scooter is able to go 75 miles an hour. We make a lot of friends that way. Let's see what this guy's about. Does he know his blinkers on? I guarantee you that's playing heck with my lavalier. He's gonna set her up and wall me? No. Not enough curiosity to stay around. I have found, for some reason, the Harley bros are way more receptive to whatever I'm doing on this stupid thing. I've also, you know, I go out and you talk to people and there's this one thing that I've noticed, a lot of people are one bike guys, and they see the scooter and so they just think you just ride scooter. And, you know, you show up later and they have, you know, you're on like I have like a 1980 GS 1100 Suzuki. I really like early 80s super bikes. And they're going, when'd you get that, boy? I was like, I've had it longer than I've had the scooter. And they're like, why do you ride the scooter? Because it's different. Like, being on a big 1100 super bike downtown with, you know, F-all way to move around is not all that exciting. Whereas right now, it's easy peasy. I can just sort of enjoy myself and relax. So we launched C&Rsenal as a video series. We partnered with the Great War. You know, interesting thing about the Great War is we make this whole agreement. We do it wasn't a live stream at first, but we do this stream with them. And their media company decides, I don't know if we want to get involved in guns. That sounds bad. And it's funny because you're going, it's the Great War. We do the whole thing on the French weapons that we had on hand. You know, it's very ad hoc, but it was a way for them to have access to all this. So they sat on it for like 6 or 8 months. I can't remember how long. And in the meantime, because I believe I was speaking to Ian at the time, and I mentioned that we had done some work with them. He's like, oh, that'd be fun too. Or somebody else referenced it, I'm not sure. But Ian and Carl do a video on, I believe it was fighting knives or something. And it was very kind of them because they were courteous about our position because we had already done the firearms work. So they're going, yeah, well, if you're doing firearms work, we'll do something else to get involved because it sounds fun. And they went ahead and just made something and sent it over to those guys. And I guess because of the difference in the channels or the topic of the knives or something, that went right on through. And then, you know, a month or two later, they finally drop our video that we had already filmed. And everyone freaks out, like, why would you do this to Ian and Carl? Why would you betray them by having this guy on after they did this other thing for you apropos of nothing? And you're going, hold on, guys, I was here first. But you can't communicate that hard enough. Like, you could have sent up every flare you had, and the public had already gotten a hold of the wrong information. So we ended up with a lot of bad blood for, I don't know, like a year, maybe a little more with some people. Because they felt like we had just sort of struck at somebody else's territory. And that doesn't seem like a big deal if you're getting eyes now, but a lot of what we ended up building a show on was individual contributions and relationship management, because the entire history of C&Rsenal, we have never had good ads. I'm going to turn up George Street. If you go a couple doors down, there's Grady Irwin, and they are the outfitter that made my jackets. They have lovely high-end sporting jackets and, well, I mean, clothing, bags, everything. They're pricey, but let me tell you, if you want the best, then go on over there. I think they still have, like, they're stocking Wesley Richards, but this is the College of Charleston campus. We're going to hurry up. The old gatehouse. And then all the brickwork to the right. You know, if I had brought the little red scooter, I could probably just walk through there and show it to you more. Maybe we'll, you know what, if we hit our funding goal, I'll put it on the screen because I'm not sure where we're at now. But if we get this funding goal, I'll come back down on the littler scooter and we'll do a couple more areas. Maybe we'll go through the Citadel, we'll go through the College of Charleston, and then I'll tell you what, we'll go up over the bridge and head on over to Yorktown, and I might even do like a time skip and drop you guys in over to Fort Moultrie. But for now, we're just sort of cruising and talking. Oh. Something's cooking. Is it fresh? Oh yeah, it's gonna be like right here. Well, this could turn into a quagmire, so... yeah, they got it blocked off pretty good. Hold on a second, buddy. Let's cheat. We'll kill the motor, and it looks like we're going to go on a little bit of a foot tour, because I know we're out through here. Now, this is the new library, or at least it was new when I was here. It's been here for a while now. It's starting to get old. But, this is, by the way, the best part of a scooter. This thing is unbelievably light for its size. So, unlike a motorcycle, I can just sort of do what I need to do. Let's see, I had a route planned. I obviously can't go down Calhoun Street now, so... sorry, I'm just trying to figure this out for a second. I could hook back George and all the way down and pop around. That's probably the best way to do it right now, with traffic the way it is. 2 or 3 things at once. Now I wonder, this thing's pressed right up against my mouth, so I'm sure it sounds like heavy breathing. This is probably a good opportunity for me to check my equipment. So get out on the street here and I'll look at my camera and make sure it's still recording because I don't know a lot about this gear yet.
Just a reminder, October is Spirit Month. The new school collection for 2025 is now available for pre-order. Remember, these designs are only produced once. Orders will not be taken after November 7th, so put your order in before you forget. Thank you for supporting our mission, and we hope you wear them with pride.
Alright, turns out I was recording. This is new technology to me, so it just timed out the screen and there was no red light to indicate anything to me. But I did manage to fumble my way through the menus. This thing requires you to run an app on your phone, and I'm really notoriously bad about wanting to do that. So I set it up on a burner phone I have that I accidentally left at the house, so I do not have app control over this stupid thing right now. Presently, we are in the Charleston village, which is right alongside the campus. There's a number of little boroughs around Charleston. I actually lived in the Charleston village for like a year in a little rental back when you could afford those. And then I actually ended up living on the edge of the Radcliffe boroughs for almost 10 years. I had an apartment larger than my house, and I'd gotten in cheaply because it was a commercial property downstairs that they were renting, and they literally just wanted somebody that would bring in a little extra income and not make a mess out of everything. And so I did such a good job of being my own super and not bothering the landlady that she just sort of rent controlled me for 10 years. I had the most unbelievably low rent. I paid less on that apartment than I do on my house. And it just, until they sold the property, I did not move out. I probably could have gotten a little bit better of a deal of a house if I had been more ambitious to get out of there, but I was so comfy. It's a nice little neighborhood and everything. But also there's a millionaire next door with a great vintage car collection, and we would chat all the time. And I was definitely getting benefits above my means by just sort of being over on that side of town and talking to people like I do. I guess I should have parlayed it into a job or something, but I wasn't thinking that way back then. I'll probably never be a wealthy man because I just keep doing what I want to do instead of what I should do, I guess. I work hard, but I don't necessarily think about how to double up. I do for other people, and then when it comes to me, I think the honesty kicks in, and the sort of need to make something in order to earn something mentality kicks in, thoroughly blue collar. But I don't know, it's my loss, I guess. Nobody else has to worry about it. Now, on our left up here is going to be one of the old Crest buildings. These were big department stores, I believe, just in the southeast, although somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. And they were really beautiful buildings. Most of them have been broken up into smaller sort of apartments, I guess you could call it, but smaller buildings. So there's the old Crest. And then look at the facing here. Very Art Deco. Very cool. And then all this was also the Crest building that's now Vineyard Vines or whatever business moves in this week. But it wraps all the way around the block, and now is probably like 8 different shops. Now this is Lower King, much more popular with the tourists. Upper King, though, I mean, you saw, we were on it a minute ago. Plenty of people in the daylight, crazy numbers of people at night. That's where all the bars and clubs are now. In my day, you didn't walk Upper King. That was not the best neighborhood at the time. Anything above Spring especially was no good, but that has long gone. There's a barbecue restaurant that's on a road that was so bad that in college I knew 2 people who were shot there in drug deals, like dead. And now I can go get barbecue. So it's a bit of a head scratcher for someone that lives too much in the past, I guess. Now I have completely messed up my route. because of avoiding that accident. So we'll just hook down here and we'll make kind of a big detour so that I can get back to what I kind of wanted to do to show you guys. Pedestrians are always a fun challenge. You guys know that are motorcycle riders, the car is your enemy, especially when they're trying to do something they don't know how to do, like turn left or stop behind you at a red light. Those are actually the number 1 and 2 killers of motorcyclists, is people just cutting in front of them on a left turn. And like I'm sitting right now, I'll habitually watch the crap out of my mirrors because somebody just coming up and rear-ending you straight in the car in front of you is a really common way to get wiped out. You should leave it in gear, you should leave yourself an exit. Being a CVT, I can pound the throttle and I'll move eventually. But this is the market. This is the head of the market. I don't know that we want to drive all through this. Well, you know, F it. We'll make an adjustment. I was going to swing down by the aquarium, but we can't get up close to it anyway. Let's just do the market and turn in. It'll be a lot easier. Now, most of downtown is on timed lights, which is really nice for a scooter rider because this thing is so light it often doesn't create enough magnetic field to set off the plates or wires or whatever you want to call them on a normal light. So I just have to be patient down here. Although I guess if I wasn't downtown, that car would eventually set off the plate anyway. But in town, I often have to check my watch for the legal time limit to wait on a red light and then just go ahead and run it. Especially at night when there's no other traffic to kind of keep the lights cycling. I believe they're called loop induction plates, now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know. Some of you are probably civil engineers and you can tell me. But this is the old market. This used to be all open air. They boxed this in and everybody hated that. It was very flea market-y when I first got down here, and then it's gotten to be like, well, I guess a lot of flea markets are like that now where everything's new made. So we start C&Rsenal, we get the videos running, we have some friction. The Great War was supposed to help us financially to some degree with offset ammo costs and things like that. It was another way to sort of help build up on the bootstrap we were doing, because otherwise we're paying out of pocket. That never came through. That was actually a big influence on my caution going into their World War II project, and they billed us on their World War II project without our agreement, and then we kind of made them mad because I warned everybody else. I went, hey, you haven't worked with these guys before. They will promise 11 and give you 5. And realistically on that project, you know, as creators, we kind of came forward and said, if we're doing this, if we're matching your pace for World War II, this is what we need. And all of it was promised, but none of it was delivered. So we never actually joined that project. Forgotten Weapons left that project along with some others. I guess it turned out to be for the best in that regard. It's very hard to coordinate that stuff. It's not like I'm sitting here going, ooh, they're bad, they just did a scheme. I just think at every step they didn't understand how the heck they would coordinate and run all this stuff while also doing their own content with the crew they had. It seemed impossible to me, and it turned out to be so. It's mostly because we do a consistent product with our little team, and I know how exhausting it is just to do what we're doing, and just the idea of being told, hey, this is the kind of loose schedule we're on, can you keep up with it? That alone was going to create logistics nightmares that were insane. So for me to make the transition in a hurry, we needed certain resources like archival resources to help us just sort of immediately start handling things in the same format without worrying about copyright. You know, little negotiations like that, and couldn't really get it done for us, so there was no way we could pivot as fast as they wanted. I mean, we're really only wandering into World War II now. I mean, you know, we spiked with the SKS that really put a shot across everybody's bow to see where we were at. But you guys, if you read the comments, you know, 1911A1 dropped, and there's still people going, oh, they finally made it to World War II. Even though we've long been doing stuff from that era, just people don't watch every video, or they don't think about the context of it until it's something that's a banner item. Changing the opinion of the zeitgeist is very difficult, which of course we're running into with the new rehash. Let's see what they're doing. I don't think they can make up their minds if they're pedestrians or vehicles. So if I pass them, they're just going to go right up on me on that red light. What was I saying? There's a lot to keep track of downtown. We're coming up on the old customs house on the right. So we ultimately decided to do what we're doing. I guess this is sort of the big topic du jour, right, is the school thing. I believe that the school aspect is being more truthful to what we've been doing. I think it carries the visual weight of what we've already been doing. That is meant for a silent majority of people who previously have either been lost or not engaged with the content because they didn't understand what was happening. I know those of you who are already fans of the show, you understand the show, you've been watching it. If you're supporters of the show, you really understand the show. But that's not most people. The vast majority of people that are even remotely interested in this content have no idea what we've been doing. And not just because they haven't seen us, but because they have seen us and they couldn't figure it out. We have so many comments every day that tell me someone's watched the content and still doesn't understand what they're seeing because there is no unified purpose. As I'm driving around town, take note of the parking signs, take note of the restaurant signs, the street signs, the one-way. Everything is reinforced as much as possible with colors and arrows and consistency, and there's a programmed response. Now, for a lot of road signs, it's something you learn when you get your driver's license, and to be honest with you, before you get your driver's license, most of you already knew what all of these signs meant because A, they're clear, and B, they're very consistent. They've been a part of your life. C&Rsenal didn't have that, and we had put ourselves in an environment that had moved around us to become something where if there's a man sitting alone at a desk having a conversation, he's probably talking politics or opinion, not necessarily facts. Now, the fact shows, quote unquote, the science shows, they tended to do this sort of like newscaster environment where they work with a green screen or something, and they have all these moving graphics and stuff, and they reference a million other little animations and yada yada yada. You know what? Let's brave it. We're going down Vendu towards Waterfront Park. You can see that there's a lovely fountain there. Unfortunately, I don't want to make this corner yet because I would like to go to the right. Oh, you know what? Let's go down the corner. I'll show you something neat and we'll just come on back. Also, there's a ton of construction there. I have no idea which roads are actually open or not. Too many thoughts at once. Let's get around traffic for a second. It's lovely. The game we're having to play is to feed on the public consciousness in order to align the expectations with what comes out of my mouth and what goes on the screen. And I think we've done a great job with it, and the numbers seem to hold that. To be perfectly transparent, on the back end, we're seeing much stronger engagement on the regular episodes. That's regardless of any of the stuff we were doing with shorts. So that was moving much better than we thought we were. We were already back up to our pre-shutdown numbers before we started doing shorts or anything like that. And then we launched the campaign. The t-shirt campaign has been extremely lackluster because I think of a number of combinations. One, there's some economic factors that we can talk about in a second, but two, a lot of you are not bought in yet on the school thing, and to be frank, some of you won't be because it's not what you have been accustomed to from the beginning. And I don't want to discard you. I want to keep bringing you all the information I possibly can. I just need your understanding that if I do not align with the expectations of this silent majority, I will stop being able to pull in new people, which is where we were at. We were at a saturation point, and we just weren't bringing in new viewers. Now, we can cover quote-unquote more interesting guns, but only to a certain degree. A lot of regular stories have to be told, and therefore, we need a way to define the show as what it really is instead of just being this thing that you subscribe to and occasionally something cool turns up. That's more what Forgotten Weapons does. They bring you cool things kind of briefly so you can see all the neat stuff. I really love this Harris Teeter. It's been here for a very long time, and I used to come here in college. But if you pay close attention, it is a train station. It's an old platform that was converted over to a grocery store by adding an extension on the rear. And if you go inside, which we will not do with the camera hanging 2 feet off my face, I'm already embarrassed enough by all this, to be honest with you. I'm a man who goes on camera for a living. I cannot stand this kind of attention. But yeah, see the sidewall, and then this big, like 2/3 of it extension in order to create the grocery store. If you go in, the checkout counters are essentially the old station, and you can see the arches and stuff. It's absolutely wonderful. If you ever visit Charleston, it's one of my favorite places to take people, and then not really tell them what's up until they're already in there, and then point it out, and they go, "Oh my God." So that's a lot of fun. Now, of course, I'm kind of swinging the wrong way. We'll have to loop back on ourselves a little bit. I'm going to keep it slow so I can keep talking. So we need to align with expectations so that we can reach the silent majority and pull in more and more people, and it's working. I'm seeing the engagement change. I've noticed people who are already friends of mine, let alone fans of ours, who are reacting much more positively, unconsciously. They know the scheme, and it's still working on them. And I've also got some bellwethers. Being in the South, there's a lot of guys that are sort of casually into firearms all the time. You know, they'll talk about it till your ears come off. And what they're watching is Brandon Herrera, they're watching Grand Thumb, they're watching stuff that pops up regularly on the YouTube feed and is fairly flashy, and they speak very authoritatively, even though a lot of the time it is just opinion. Which is, by the way, fine. I'm not trying to denigrate them for doing that. Speaking clearly and authoritatively is one of the core tenets of communication. It's just that it's not what we're doing, because we're supposed to be the research show. We're supposed to hedge and say, well, this is what we do and don't know. Here's Liberty Square, the aquarium's up in here, the walk is up in here, and unfortunately you can't see much of it from our perspective, and I'm not about to try to walk the scooter in there for a quick little tour. So, they consume this entertainment grade stuff, which is good. It provides some information, it provides a lot of exposure, and it keeps people engaged in the topic. I don't dislike it. A lot of it has come with trappings of personality or politics or anything like that, and believe me, it's a very strong magnet. We don't have the biggest channel. We're obviously very research oriented and things like that, but people still start to listen to you, and you start to develop a fandom, people who have a lot of respect for you, who want to know what you think about other things. And that comes in two flavors. Flavor one is they're genuinely curious about what it is you're thinking, and they want to engage with it honestly. And I will say that's probably a minority in my experience, because a lot of number two is people that are looking for consensus. They're saying, you are a smart man, so you must agree with me because I am right. And I'm going to be honest with you, the older I get, the more I realize nobody's right. There is no omnipotent person that I know of, and therefore all of us are working on various assumptions and experiences. And I'm not trying to say everything is relative. I do have my own beliefs around what is right and wrong that permeates time and cultures, but I'm not here to sell that to you. I'm here to be a merchant of different ideas, concepts of historical preservation, concepts of engineering, concepts of essentially competition and warfare to a certain degree, although it's more the technology side. We're not really set up to tell you how to live your life. But boy, is it tempting to, because you're bombarded every day with other people's politics. You have a platform, and it's very inviting to say, well, hold on, here's my opinion, and aren't I so smart? And I'm doing my best not to fall for that trap. It's really not a great idea to get involved in that and wash out what we've worked so hard for a decade on. And a lot of people want me to take that approach, but I don't think we're going to. We got another bike rider. I don't recognize this guy. Yeah, it's funny, I keep wondering if I'm going to run into somebody I know, because I do actually know a number of riders now. I actually know a number of people downtown over the years. When Suze first moved here, we had an awkward moment where she said, you never introduced me to like any of your other friends, because people kept stopping me in the street and saying, hey, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. And I had to tell her I don't know their names. And she goes, bullshit, they know yours, they're all happy to see you, but they talk about, back in the day. And I'm going, yeah, a friend of mine and I, he had an apartment off of King Street with an iron gate, and this is kind of like pre-Facebook to very early Facebook, and people would have to kind of text around to figure out who had a party going on. It's about once a month or so we'd throw these keggers that we had gotten all the other apartment holders in on it. We had made deals on sharing profits. We had gotten cheap kegs and $5 solo cups and stuff. and we were making bank throwing like 150 person parties. And because of the iron gate that we managed, we would always like pay and post a guy to keep the gate closed. Every time someone come in, gate closed. And that was enough to keep the cops from ever being curious about what we were doing, because it just looked like a private event. And we were very popular for a couple of years there. So there were a number of people that knew me, and I'd just go, "You guy." I feel bad, but it's just what you do. Sorry, I think we've wandered the topic. I'm sure I've let something drop. Yeah, I think I embarrassed that guy. He tried to get away from me. You see that? Let's go ahead and keep up, huh? Oh, he's going for it. He really don't want to be around Scooter, bro. So, where were we at with C&Rsenal? I'm sorry, guys. I wandered into a corner. This is the hard part about trying to maintain some sort of discussion while you're working in a flow state. Let's see, we got as far as the channel. We got as far as trying to work with the Great War. Well, anyway, let's get back to where we were chronologically, I guess. So, we launched the channel. We find out about this thing called Patreon. I'm an early adopter of it. I've said this before, but I have an email somewhere from Ian being like, yeah, I saw that I think I said publicly, like, hey, we're up to like $400 a month on Patreon. And I was very happy about this data. I can't remember if I typed it or what, but I do remember being like $450. And I'm thinking like, yeah, we got like $400 coming in, because our YouTube money was so piss poor. And I think it kind of made me realize how much better Ian was doing at this than we were, because he sent me an email. He's just like, yeah, I saw the Patreon thing's not really working out. I kind of thought that was going to be bunk, blah, 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 blah. Or that it was going nowhere, not bunk. But, I thought it was going nowhere. It's sad to see it's not really working out. And in my head, I'm going, oh, I was happy about the $400. Like, I needed that. It was free money to me. And I responded, I was like, we'll see where it goes, but I mean, any extra money right now is good. Hopefully we can build a community here. I can't rely on YouTube. And next thing you know, it kind of blows up. I think we got over K, which is, that was very exciting. But I think about at that point, that's when he decided, oh wait, I should get involved in this. And then I think that's probably primary income for both of us now. I'm not sure, he has other businesses going. But it's definitely our primary income by a lot. YouTube does not cover the bills at all. It's sort of just icing on the cake at best. Yeah, I should probably let you guys see Waterfront Park. But we're going to have to do a little back and forth, because Adger's Wharf to and fro are cobblestone. And as funny as it is to drive on cobblestone with this, and I have done it, there's a problem of, oh my god, did they open up the battery finally? They've been on construction for a while. There's a problem of the way the carburetor is on this. It's essentially just supported by the boot. There are versions of this bike where the carburetor has its own separate bolts, but mine doesn't have that, or the spot for it. And so the carburetor is just held up by the boot with no extra structure. And so when you shake the crap out of it on cobblestone, it has a habit of either breaking loose or breaking the boot, because you're just throwing this inertia around on the end of an old dried out piece of rubber. But let's get a look at the water for a second. So on the right, that's the Harbor Pilots. There's a small public pier there, and then across the left is Waterfront Park. I'll skirt across it. This is a great spot to come take a look around Charleston, especially out over the bay. You can see Sumter. If you're really eagle-eyed, you can see Moultrie out there, I'm sure. But, like I said, we could do another video if we hit that funding level that I put on the screen. Doing numbers in my head right now doesn't sound very exciting. So, brick we can brave. Now, for those of you who are paying attention, we're on the other side of that public water fountain that everybody was playing in. If we were to go up these bricks and just go straight, like, all of 120 yards, we'd be right there. So, there's a big pineapple fountain in there, which we're not going to be able to make out, and there's a lovely giant pier that you can go out and look around. There's usually tons of people out here in good weather. This is a one-way ahead of us, so we have to turn left. Normally I would like to go that way and just cheat it, but they've got construction everywhere. Now let's see if I get forced onto... See, there's more cobblestone. That is the enemy of the scooter right now. wonder if I'm gonna get forced onto one of the Adgers. Brick is fine. Nah, I'll take Elliot. I can never remember the exact makeup of this little block. Somewhere in here is a wonderful old carriage house, and I can't remember which road it was on. You know what? Actually, I might know. But it's one that really shows you how Charleston feels about trees. Compared to Virginia and parts of Savannah, we have a lot more foliage. Charleston will not cut down trees if it doesn't absolutely have to. Oh, Rainbow Row. How about that, boys? This is very famous, just for all the colorful houses in a line. And honestly, it's a little tighter in here than you'd think. The ways it's depicted, you'd think it was out on the waterfront, but it is not. Yeah, I got distracted by Rainbow Row. I bet you I missed my good turn. Keep up with your group. Longitude is actually a small road that we could take if I walked those lines, but it's actually not the most excited technical road over here. Yeah, I'm too low. Oh no, I'm not. I'm good. Stoll's Alley. So that out there is going to be the battery with White Point, but they're very curious about this Stoll's Alley. Well, they're going to go down it. That's fine. We'll give them a moment to clear. Stoll's Alley is drivable in a scooter, but I guess they're going to be in there for a minute. That is a fairly long alleyway. If you take it, it'll pop you out on Church Street. Usually it's better to do that at night because of all the tourists. But we'll head up Water, which will at least give us some of the view. No, I think we're south of Broad now. You have south of Broad, it stretches over towards the French Quarter, which is the sort of south side of the market. No turns. That's because you can't turn right. So Stoll's Alley would have come out over there, which I really wish I had taken you guys down. But we'll cut left over on Church, which is all brick and root. And it's a lot of root. Look at this bump. Now, on a bike that doesn't have a free-floated carburetor, this is a lot more fun. But I have to be a little cautious, like I said, because if I crack that boot, we're going to be stranded until I can glue it up. White Point is famous for being part of, oh good lord, what was the name of that? There's a number of you guys that are treasure hunters that know this. There was somebody supposedly hit a fortune of rare who-know-what's-its, and White Point ended up being one of the parks that was a clue, and no one's ever found it. Somebody will point this out to me. I'm not big on this stuff. I want to say it was from the 70s, but it is very lovely. There is a Hotchkiss Quickfire that's mounted out here. Let's take a look. I can't remember which direction it's in. It must be to the right. Yeah, they still have the battery walled off right at the turn there, which is the nicest part. It's been like that for a year. Let's take a look to the left, because somewhere in here is my Hotchkiss gun, unless they removed it like they get rid of all the cool stuff. There's my boy. I'll take a look at it from the road, but it is battered and welded out, but if you want to go play with a... I think they have a tag on it. But, fun little find. I don't think a lot of people even know what it is. They probably think it's older than it is. They think it's an old Gatling or something. There's a lot of old cannon and mortar out here too, which is not my forte. I'm not very good at artillery, which makes everybody mad. They're also mad that I'm not good at tanks and ships and planes, and, you know, I've only got so many hours in a day. I think I'm going to learn about what I can learn about. Aviation is something I'm going to have to focus on somewhat at one point, just so I can cover certain guns, but that's a little bit of a stretch too. Alright, so you guys are walking straight down the road. It's very hard to resist honking at them. All along the battery, which was named appropriately. What's up, Bo? They've added these raised bumps through here, probably because of all the flooding. Oh, God. We had some friends coming through, because we got a scooter gang, and I definitely had one of the guys hit one of these hard and just completely knock his carburetor off, and stall out instantly, and we had to pull it apart right there. The good thing about this little single cylinder is I've got a multi-tool in here and a couple zip ties, and let me tell you, that gets you really far on this bike. It's been an utter delight to work with. It has its sensitivities, but boy, in terms of simplicity, it is just lovely. I once found a wandering Bernese mountain dog when I was early in college around here. And he had, or no, I didn't find a wandering, I'm sorry, I found a wandering small toy dog of some sort. And he had a name tag, I don't know, Butch or something, I can't remember. And I called the number on the tag, I was like, hey, I got your dog Butch. And they're like, oh, can you handle him? And I'm holding this little tiny Pekingese-sized thing. And I'm going, yeah, I think I got him. I'm like, okay, well, here's the address, you know, if you can bring him by, the housekeeper will let you in, yada, yada, yada. It was one of these mansions over here. And so I show up, and there's a massive, like, 150-pound Bernese mountain dog that comes to greet me at the gate. And I'm like, I see what's happened here, because it's some guest of theirs dog had gotten out, and they just, in case, they had put one of Butch's spare dog tags on there. And we had not saved Butch. Butch was perfectly fine and very happy to see his playmate back. But it was fun. We ended up getting a free meal out of it because he owned a restaurant down here, so that was nice. The Coast Guard, as we come around the corner. And then if we cut left here at some point, not Chisholm, let's go to Rutledge. We'll take a look at Colonial, quote-unquote, lake, Colonial Pond. What is this guy doing? This is one way of driving, I guess. Is he a passenger? I mean, I shouldn't say too much. I guess I'm filming down here. Now, this used to be one way only, and it still kind of blows my mind. I mean, at the moment it is too, but all the way up it used to be one way only. It really has slowed down traffic a lot, but the tourists just could not understand that things were one way. It really messed with them. So I'm sorry, we're on Ashley. Rutledge is the sister road. So it used to be Ashley goes that way, Rutledge goes this way, and you could just get in and out of downtown pretty easily that way. And then they made it two-way and put a bunch of stop signs and lights, because everybody kept running into each other. Mostly bar hoppers, like just at night, tourists drinking. Like the idea of a one-way just blew their minds. It's kind of awkward. There's places where you can clearly see that the road was not designed to be two-way at all. And so there's these odd islands and turns and stuff that just don't work, or they just turn from one-way to two-way all of a sudden, and vice versa, because they couldn't make it work. Which I imagine must have had some difficulty. Maybe I guess it's less. I don't know if they keep track of it once they make the change. I feel like you make that change, and if it doesn't work, you just shut up because you spent so much money making the change. But on the right, this lovely Colonial Lake. And then we'll just go ahead and hook Lockwood. Now, the way we're going with this campaign, I suspect that we're being affected by several factors. One is people not being used to store, or used to the school. God, I can't speak. One is not being used to school, fine. Two is there's that whole government freeze. Three is a lot of people are losing income. I've seen a lot of people quietly saying that there's a quiet recession going on a number of fronts. There's a few financial schemes that are kind of falling apart right now, and that always has an effect. But we're fairly down from last year, so if you're someone that wants to keep C&Rsenal going, I would really appreciate help right now, because we are probably going into a storm looking around at the way things are economically. and we burned up a lot of our reserves getting re-geared. I'm sure some of you are happy because you hate the school idea, but I needed that other studio, and I'm going to tell you, the numbers are holding. Now, the reason we started doing shorts like crazy was just to go ahead and make sure that people saw that the campaign was running. I'm driving way too slow for this road. Let's just go ahead and get off for a second. The campaign was dragging a lot, I think, because of low exposure. The videos that we release for the campaigns usually do better numbers. And I think the way YouTube's working now, they don't really show you your subscriptions unless you go clicking around for them. And most people don't. I can say it as many times as I want here. I can make videos that say check your subscriptions and just keep blaring them. But what's going to happen is the same thing that happened to my announcement for the campaign, which is that no one saw it. So I still have people who are regulars of the show, even friends of mine, are like, is the campaign going on? Because it's October and they just know it. So a lot of people are showing up just because they know it from the routine, not because of any announcement, because the announcements are just not being seen. I have no idea if this video is going to be seen either, but it's something to try. I'm really just doing everything I can to kind of blurt out, yeah, we're here. I sent it up on all our social media. I've sent it up in our various announcements. I've tagged it in the episode that released. I've tagged it in a bunch of shorts that we released in order to make sure people saw it. But of course, the shorts audience is not really the same audience as you guys at all times. I mean, a lot of you are in there, and hopefully I'm reaching you with those things. But there's a lot of new people in there as well. We're going to go ahead and commit to the shorts for as long as we can, that it's sort of easy, quote unquote. Easy is a relative word because our schedule was already pretty tight, but at least for the shorts, I kind of give myself a limit of like 15 minutes to write each one, and then another 10 minutes to film it. So you're looking at maybe like half an hour's effort each short, but that sounds not too terrible until you start thinking, well, hold on, if he's doing like 5 a week, you know, that starts to add up when you're already working crazy hours. So and that's pretty true. It is starting to creep on me, and we already are tight, but I'm going to do my best to punch it right now. I know, I've seen this before with businesses, and I want to be honest with myself. A lot of people go into the second phase of a business. They have to make a critical decision, like a move or an upgrade or something. I don't know why I started turning my turn signal. They want to do like a move or an upgrade or something like that, and this is another one of those spots where the two-way doesn't make sense. And what they do is they drag their nuts through glass to get it done. And it sucks. I know it sucks. And they drag across the material finish line. So in like our case, the school is up and we're exhausted and we're happy to start filming like normal. And we just want to go back to normal. But the audience doesn't see that effort, and they can't. You can tell them about it. Some people really get it if they have that kind of career, but it's a very small minority of people. So when you come back from something like this, you have to bring a lot of enthusiasm with it. And I hate to say it, but we didn't really do that very well on the initial school stuff. Now, it's still working, which is amazing, because we should have done a lot better. We're getting very lucky with how well this is going. But we could have done better. We could have actually brought, oh, good Lord, that was a rough one on the suspension. We could have actually brought a lot more hype to this. Well, I don't know that we had the energy to, but we should have forced it regardless, or hired somebody to help us force it somehow. I'm not sure how that would work, but, the funny thing is, reality doesn't really care about your resources. It doesn't care about your intelligence. It doesn't care about what you can or can't do easily. Reality is reality. So I think we have the bones for what we're doing. It's already come back to where it was. If we give it a little energy, I think it'll come back around. I'm very excited about the classroom vibe. It is far better aligned with what we're doing, and I think we're going to see some opportunities come forward where we can get in guest speakers and things like that and really play with it. And I think a lot of people, think about it this way, a lot of people love doing guest appearances on shows. Like old Miami Vice, all sorts of actors and celebrities would show up on there. Like Phil Collins was a villain on Miami Vice because it was a role that you could kind of play easily and have fun with and get a little attention, and it was just it was a touch point. I think with the school system, we're going to become sort of a touch point for the old gun community. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to come in and sort of play themselves in the environment and have fun with it. And to be honest with you, most of us are thinking, when we communicate with you, we're thinking like a teacher. We're communicating to a large body of people. We're trying to be honest and responsive to them. And it fits the role. Like, it just naturally falls into place. So I'm super stoked about it. I'm sorry that it didn't necessarily come across very clearly, given that we were exhausted, but that's all right. I mean, I'm super stoked about what I'm doing right now, and you can tell I've been level this whole time. I'm just not a very exuberant person when I'm communicating to the public at large, because I hate to lie to people through my tone. I think YouTube's gone this route of everybody doing the react face, because, let's be honest, there's a lot of content on YouTube that they pretend is for adults, and it's really for children. And I do think it's a little childish to talk to a camera that way, which is kind of funny because I talk to my friends that way. I tend to be a very, like, energetic person with my friends. I get in there and I'm animated, and I'm yelling, I'm hyping them up, and I'm like, let's go, boys, this is a lot of fun. And then what do I do when I turn the camera on? I sort of sag and fluster and turn it down, because I don't want to lie to a big mass of people. Also, it's kind of weird. Like, it's weird to get in front of a lot of people and start yelling and waving your arms, because there is not a personal connection. But that's what that does. That sort of animated stuff. And that, by the way, parasocial relationship, right? A lot of people, they get that attention from a YouTuber or whatever, and they think, or unconsciously. I don't think they consciously think it, but unconsciously it triggers this familiarity event, especially if they're the kind of person that's isolated themselves. So, I don't want to feed into that. I believe very strongly in real relationships, and I genuinely love the people in my life, and I have a lot of love for strangers too. I like people, and I guess that means I come off dry when I'm talking to the public, because I don't want to put up a false front. And I will say, the school thing has done a lot to dial down the parasocial relationship. A lot of people are very upset by that, but I hate to say it, it's probably for their best interest. I should not be your best friend, unless you live here and we're best friends. Then I could be your best friend. There's at least one guy that was a fan of the show that has become my best friend. We hang out all the time. But that's because we're here and a parent to each other, and we support each other, and we're friends. It's not just because we sort of know and like each other and, how do I put this, fan each other? Fandom is a very risky thing for us, by the way. If you think about it, you have this silent majority that is funding the show and watching the show, interacting with the show, and it's this, like, sort of this fluid resource that you can sort of lure in with high and low pressure. You can't really, like, you can't just drop an irrigation system in. It doesn't work that directly. You have to influence it. Effluvia, I don't know what you'd call it. So you have to kind of push and pull it through this mystic art. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It can be very frustrating. On top of that is a layer of communication through the comments, through the patrons, DMs, and things like that, where people want to affect change on the show, and they'll do a lot to over-broadcast what they're doing, or what their opinions are. You know, we're going to fight this. So, I didn't think they'd go that fast, so I didn't mean to cut him off, but I'm going to wait on that. We could clear it. These commenters can be key for certain data, but not all of it, because by the fact that they're commenting means they are not the silent majority, and they do not have the same opinion as the silent majority. And I've seen, like, the most outspoken people, the people that really light you up in every way, and they often give you money to do it. They're the ones that'll put you in a spiral that you can't escape from. Because what happens is, the guy that gives you $20 instead of $1 will scare off 30 $1 guys by just dialing in and in and in on these heavy expectations of you to be exactly what he wants you to be. This is a very common thing you see with streamers that stay going for a long time. They get kind of addicted to their very best donations. We got a bad timing on this. We're good. And they sort of wander into this insane spiral of attention. This is one of the areas you could not go before, but now it's actually quite nice. Um, they can't, pardon me, they can't, I understand why they're doing it, right? All their feedback tells them that this is the way, this is where money comes from. But it doesn't seem like it works in the long term. They become caricatures of themselves. It's sort of like, people say flanderization, right? They really don't like that when it comes to media. It ruins a character's depth. But then fandoms are the things that create flanderization. And you can see it sort of in a sped up time with streamers and YouTubers because their most supportive and outspoken fans push the show and push the show. I think it's also something that happens when you reboot a show. Like, I don't know, a lot of you might have watched Futurama, and it comes back, and it comes back, and each time it seems like a more watered-down version of itself that's just sort of referencing itself instead of actually being creative. And the answer is, well, yeah, because it's feeding off the fandom, not off the original inspiration. And once you start building on fandom, you threaten your future. Now, I can't know if my break with our very established fandom in this whole school format is going to work or not. I just know that if I don't make the break, it can't work. We were losing people slowly. We had become too much of one thing, and we were too out of date. We were too associated with stuff that we aren't, unconsciously to a public opinion. The fans, yes, they get it, but that's not who we have to reach. We've already reached the fans. Now, we hope we retain them, we give them as much respect as we can, but this is a grow or die market, and we're making our bid to grow. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me on it, because if you're watching this, you have. There's no way you haven't. But I just want to sort of, we're about to hit this big bridge and you're going to hear crap from me, but we'll do a quick tour across the Ravenel without much to say. So I'm just going to tell you guys thanks. We genuinely appreciate you being here and doing this with us. I have no idea if my audio is all that good, so maybe I should raise my voice. But you know what? I'll be here next time. You guys give me some feedback. We'll go through a little bit more of it. Let me know what I missed or hit, because right now I'm doing two things at once, which was the point. Y'all have a good one.
Just a reminder, October is Spirit Month. The new school collection for 2025 is now available for pre-order. Remember, these designs are only produced once. Orders will not be taken after November 7th, so put your order in before you forget. Thank you for supporting our mission, and we hope you wear them with pride.